Okay. All right. Yes, sir?
Is that why they sent them to attack me?
The shots came from inside the vehicle. It was from the back seat.
As we're about to come to the end of the Tupac Shakur murder trial, here is a full recap to give you everything you need to know about what happened in court as a jury is about to determine whether Duane Keffe D. Davis is guilty of orchestrating the killing of the rap icon almost 30 years ago.
My intent was to drive back to Las Vegas and have Mr. Davis arrested for murder.
Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so Tupac Shakur's murder trial has reached a major milestone. The prosecution rested its case, the defense put on its case, they rested too, meaning closing arguments are set for Monday morning. And Duane Keffe D. Davis, okay, he made his presence felt one last time before the evidence wrapped up. I think that's a fair way to say it, because this was the moment the judge was advising Davis of his right to testify. It's only his right. He's the only one that could decide. And she explained that if he took the stand, the prosecution could ask him about his prior felony convictions. You know, she said his 2015 conviction for battery by a prisoner would be fair game. And she explained that when a defendant takes the stand, he can be asked about any prior felony convictions. Well, the judge said that his 2015 conviction for battery by a prisoner would be fair game. That is when Davis couldn't help himself.
You're further advised that if you have a felony conviction and more than 10 years has not elapsed from the date you were convicted or discharged from prison, parole, or probation, whichever is later, and and you elect to take the stand and testify, the DA will be able to ask you in the presence of the jury the following. 1, have you been convicted of the felony? 2, what was the felony? And 3, when did it happen? But the DA cannot get into details about that. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll leave it to you and your attorney's consultations as to what your decision is, but I just wanted to give you those rights at this time.
Okay.
Okay.
Judge, just for the record, because Mr. Stamp may not be aware of this, we checked the 2015 conviction. It ran on August 11th of 2026. So the only conviction that he would be facing cross-examination for is his conviction a couple of years ago for battery by a prisoner.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir?
Is that why they sent them to attack me?
I understand that's your position, that happened, but ultimately, I don't know anything about that case. I've never looked at it, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
All right.
Yeah, so look, Davis spent some of this week making his presence known. At the beginning of the week, for example, when documentary filmmaker Michael Dorsey was on the stand, Davis actually shouted out from the defense table. Defense attorney Michael Samft was arguing about the role of the interviewer in the Death Row Chronicles recordings, and his defense attorney couldn't remember the interviewer's name, so Davis actually filled in the blank, and it was picked up on a hot mic.
The problem with what we're doing now is this. Mr. Dorsey gets up there and testifies, and he says, look, my job, from what I understand, was to listen in to the interview that's being conducted between Mr. Davis and the interviewer, which... And he's supposed to be there to really sort of make sure that Mr. Davis is not lying or saying something that's off from what he understands the 2008 proper session to be, the recording.
Yeah, that was Davis, apparently trying to help his own attorney from the defense table. And then there was the restroom break moment. Yeah, the judge asked the jury if they needed a break. They didn't, but Davis did. So instead of leaning over and quietly telling his attorney, he raised his hand, waving his arm to get the judge's attention.
Let's see. We've been going for about an hour and a half. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do you guys have to take a restroom break? Anyone? Raise your hand. Okay. If you want to just do maybe another half hour, and then we'll take our lunch break. Okay, perfect. Do you need to use the restroom? Okay. All right. We will have to take our break now. So we will take a recess. During the recess, you are admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with the trial, or read, watch, or listen to any report or commentary on the trial of any person connected to this case by any medium of information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, internet, radio, or form or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until it is submitted to you. Please rise for the jury. We'll see you guys back here at, let's say, 11:40.
Yeah, so Davis inserting himself into the proceedings has become a theme throughout this trial. But while Davis was making his presence known in the courtroom, there was a lot of actual legal fireworks happening this week. The prosecution called several key witnesses in their final push. The defense even called witnesses of their own. And when the dust settled, both sides rested. Now, before we jump into this, okay, and we got a lot to go into, we can't show you every piece of evidence in a big case like this, but what I can tell you is you go to the case file section on the Law&Crime Plus app, everything's there. We are opening up the evidence vault so you can inspect raw body cam footage, 911 calls, crime scene photos, full trial tapes, all firsthand, all on these big cases. Plus, you get ad-free streaming of all your favorite law and crime and court TV shows. But you can see the full picture for an entire month free. Head on over to lawandcrimeplus.com, enter promo code SIDEBAR, start exploring today. Okay, so let's start where we left off, okay? So the prosecution was wrapping up its case, and they called a series of witnesses to shore up these key pieces of their narrative. But before we get into the final witnesses, there is one more piece of courtroom drama that we need to talk about. This was the cross-examination of Michael Dorsey. So Dorsey is the documentary filmmaker who worked on Death Row Chronicles, and he was hired to listen in on Davis's interviews from a separate room to verify that Davis was telling the truth. But Dorsey didn't just listen. He recorded everything with his phone, including conversations between Davis and his attorney. And when Dorsey took the stand, first outside the presence of the jury in order for the judge to make a key ruling on some evidence, the defense went after him hard regarding this alleged secret recording he apparently took during the filming of Death Row Chronicles, and the prosecutor actually objected to the defense's line of questioning.
Okay, Mr. Dorsey, you've never met Mr. Davis before.
We've never met. We've seen each other before.
Okay, so on the day of the recording, you made it a point to not run into Mr. Davis, fair?
Correct.
You were actually in this other room,
That's correct.
and you're there just with headphones on.
Yes.
So,
And I saw him walk by. I know
Right.
he's disagreeing with me right now. I watched him go by,
sure, and that's fine.
and he looked at me.
Okay, are you done with the answer?
Yeah, I sure am.
Okay. Now, in terms of your work, I want to make sure I'm clear. Are you working as an employee of BET?
No,
Okay, what are you at that point?
I am a contract employee, work for hire, as a technical consultant for specifically this production. I'm not hired by BET. I'm hired by the production company.
By the production company?
Yes, sir.
And that's Entertainment One?
Entertainment One and Creature Films, like a subsidiary of Entertainment One.
All right. And then in terms of your work with Entertainment One, that was bound with a confidential agreement, right?
Yes.
Do you have proof right now that you're no longer bound to that agreement?
I do. I have a letter from an attorney at Paramount Pictures, which owns BET, approving me sharing my information. And then I also have an email from Mark Ford, the head of Creature Films, also saying he had no objection.
Okay. So in your work with Entertainment One, what you basically do is you have your phone or whatever recording device down
Yes.
next to the monitor in which you're listening to a conversation.
Correct.
You cannot tell us who's where in your recording, correct?
Correct.
You just hear noises, right?
That's right.
Now, in terms of the actual recording itself, as the individuals sitting there, are they sitting with mics on their lapels as they're sitting there being interviewed by that person?
What you mean, the person conducting the interview, is he wearing a mic?
Is he wearing a mic, and is the person that he's interviewing wearing a mic?
I don't know if the Mario Diaz, for example, is conducting the interview. I don't know if he was wearing a lapel mic, but there would be two mics in the room minimum. There would be a lapel mic on Keffe, and then there would be a shotgun mic over him that is kind of capturing everything else in the room.
Right. And so, in terms of what you're recording, you don't know, for instance, if the cameras are on and off because you're actually just listening to sound.
That's correct.
And in terms of the interview, you understand that Wayne Higgins was in the room as well as
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, he was there for the entire first interview, and then he was like 10 minutes late to the second interview.
All right. Now, before we were listening to this, are there any moments at all where Mr. Davis is talking loudly during what you would think would be a private conversation?
Loudly. He's just using a normal indoor voice is what I would say.
Okay. And then
And-
when you say that there was this statement that this is a hot mic,
Yes.
fair to say that that was a reminder to whoever he's talking to that, hey, this should be kept private.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
So there were times where there was an understanding, or at least an idea that what they were going to have a conversation about.
There was one time, that was the only time.
Now, after you had recorded what you did in this
Yes.
case, which is the entire thing,
Correct.
you never had his permission to record all of it, right?
I didn't need his permission.
Why?
Because he's there to be recorded. He's got mics on him. He has lights and a camera pointed at him. He's in a production studio. I'm officially hired on as a crew member. I'm allowed to do whatever I want.
No.
And-
Let's back up here for make sure I'm clear.
Sure.
You're a crew member, but you don't own the rights to the production itself, right?
Correct.
And you don't own the rights in terms of what the camera angles are or anything along those lines.
That's correct. I could
Now-
not put this on YouTube and profit from it.
Okay, well, back up here again. I want to make sure I'm clear. Did you take that audio recording that you made and give it to either Entertainment One or any of the subsidiaries in this case?
No,
Okay, so you basically took something that you didn't have permission to take.
that's not true.
Okay, well, back up here. Tell me who you got permission from.
I didn't need permission. Do you understand? There's no permission needed for that. I'm there to do it. I made the recording because he showed up for the first interview, not ready for his interview to be conducted. So I knew it was going to be broken up into 2 days. So I said, I'm going to make a recording of this so that I can make sure we ask the correct follow-up questions when we come back. That's the only reason I made this recording.
But you're not the contract person. You don't have a contract with
I apologize, we're way afield of the issue that the court needs to rule upon, and this sounds like cross-examination for a jury.
Now, after the judge made a ruling that the attorney-client privilege didn't apply because Davis was in a recording studio and he had signed a release, the jury was brought back in. And when this cross-examination continued, this is when things got really contentious.
Did you verify any of the information that he gave you?
What do you mean?
Well, the information that you learned in this case,
That
right?
who gave me?
Well, the information that you learned from either the listing of the 2008 proper or in the interview with Mr. Davis. Did you go out and conduct your own investigation to verify the information?
Sure, I went through, well, again, I had unfettered access to the case files, and there's lots of corroborating evidence in those case files.
Now, when you say the case files, and I want to make sure I'm clear here,
Sure.
you're talking about Greg Cady,
Yes.
and you're talking about Greg Cady, who's former LAPD.
Well, I'm not just talking about Greg Kading. I'm talking about every detective that
Just
came
answer
before
my
him.
question,
I
please.
am. You're trying to phrase it in a certain way. Not just Greg Kading. It's not just his files. In fact, the majority of them are from detectives that came before him, including Las Vegas police files.
All right. What detectives are you talking about before Greg Cady?
Sure. A lot of the biggie detectives had gathered evidence. Don't shake your head. A lot of biggie detectives gathered evidence. Jeez, man. A lot of biggie detectives that gathered evidence that pertained to the Tupac case because the two cases it became known or believed were connected. So they had informants coming forward to them on the biggie case that were saying, hey, these two things are connected.
Okay. And once again, evidence or information that would have gone to the detective, right?
Eventually to Greg Kading and his team of detectives, yes.
Once again, you got to understand, Greg Cady was not responsible for the investigation of the Tupac murder.
Correct.
He was part of the task force specifically for the Biggie Smalls murder.
That's correct.
And you are aware at some point he's removed from that task force, right?
Yes.
The defense kept pressing Dorsey, even accusing Greg Kading of literally stealing the Tupac file, but Dorsey wasn't having any of that.
Yes.
And one of the things he does is he steals the Tupac file.
I
right?
object to the word steals.
I'm sorry, he
Well, you
borrowed.
I don't mean in like a legal sense I object to it. This is a person I object to.
I guess I would.
I'm not wagering an objection. I take issue with the word
Okay.
steal.
Okay.
Any detective can take case files with them when they leave the department. It happens all the time. It's extremely common. In fact, I just did a series on Ted Bundy last year based on the same exact thing. One of the lead detectives on the Bundy case in the 70s took a box of files with him, and we were able to obtain those files, and we made a show about Ted Bundy based on his files.
Are you a detective, sir?
No.
So you can't sit here and tell us what a detective can and cannot do. Fair? You're not a detective.
Like legally, I can't say that. I can say based on my experience as a true crime producer for the past 20 years, it's very common in my line of work to come across files that detectives have taken home with them.
That's fair.
So I want to make sure I'm clear. You're telling us that Detective Kading took a file that he wasn't even part of the investigation on? You're saying that that's what happened here?
But Judge, I assume a fact, not an evidence.
No. I think he mentioned that, Judge.
What do you mean? He took a file that was not a case he didn't work?
Yes.
As soon as Keffe confessed to the Tupac's murder, that he they took ownership of that case. And again, you're going to have to ask him that question because I was not there for that.
So, once again, that's something you're saying that Greg Kading should come here and testify to.
If he wants to, sure.
And once again, based upon your research of this file for the 2 years prior to the documentary or the project that you were working on.
Yes.
Projects for that.
Murder rap, yes.
You learned, of course, that Greg Kading was basically had issues with credibility.
Objection, Judge. We approach.
And the cross-examination got so tense that Dorsey snapped again.
I don't recall what the book said specifically.
All right. So if you would to turn with me, I think, to that book right there, to page 96, looking at page 96 of the book that you read, refresh your recollection.
The page numbers might be different here because this is the Kindle version, but let me see.
Can you just wait until I'm done with my questions, sir?
Can you stop saying that to me, man? Jeez, dude. Just having a normal conversation with you. You don't have to keep cutting me off and making me sound like I'm eager.
Now, that wasn't the only testimony the jury heard this week. No, far from it. The prosecution called a series of witnesses to tighten up key pieces of their narrative. And who was the first one? Well, he took the jury right back to what allegedly happened in that car on September 7th, 1996. Tupac was killed in Las Vegas. This alleged drive-by shooting. He was in this car. This happened after this apparent altercation at the MGM Grand, where he was accused, along with Suge Knight, of attacking Orlando Anderson, Keffe D's nephew. So the claim is that Keffe D allegedly orchestrated this revenge plot killing. Okay, so this brings us to Malcolm Greenidge. He's Tupac's cousin, member of the Outlaws, this rap group that Tupac was building before he was killed. His testimony? It put the jury right there in that car on the date of the killing. So Greenidge told the jury that he came to Las Vegas for the Mike Tyson fight. He was riding in a Lexus with Tupac directly behind Suge Knight's BMW. And when they stopped at the light at Flamingo and Caval, he saw it happen.
And when you saw the shooting, did somebody get out of the car and start shooting, or were they shooting from inside the vehicle?
The shots came from inside the vehicle.
And was it from the front or back seat?
It was from the back seat.
And did you see the arm or the gun or anything like that?
The arm and the gun attached to that arm.
And were you able to make an assessment of whether the person whose arm was out was white, Asian, Hispanic, or African American? In terms
From my
of
vantage point, they appeared to be African American.
what's your reaction when you see the shots?
I'm horrified.
And I'm sorry, I don't think I asked this question. Who was in the Lexus with you at that point?
Security, Frank Alexander, Yafael Fula, and Katari Cox.
So, two of the fellow members of the Outlaws, and then a security guard named Frank Alexander.
Right.
What do you guys do in the immediate aftermath of the shooting?
We started to get out of the car to go check on Tupac. And, yeah, that's what we did.
Do all of you make it to Mr. Shakur, Mr. Knight's car?
No.
Does anybody make it to Mr. Shakur, Mr. Knight's car? What happens?
Suge pulled off, made a U-turn.
Or do you guys follow them, or do you drive off someplace else?
No, we followed them.
And that's why do you guys have to make a U-turn to follow them? Does Mr. Knight's car stop ultimately at an intersection?
It does.
What happened? Are you following him to that intersection?
We were.
What happens when you stop at that intersection?
We get out of the car to go check on Tupac.
And are you able to make it to Tupac's vehicle?
No.
Why not?
When we approached the car, Mr. Shakur said to me, get on the ground, they're going to shoot you. And when I turned around, there was a shotgun in my face.
And who was holding the shotgun?
Police officer.
So what do you do?
I got on the ground.
That shotgun held by a police officer. So he hit the ground while first responders rushed Tupac to the hospital. Now, under cross-examination, the defense pressed Greenidge on what he could actually see. And he seemingly made a key admission.
Ford 662.
Correct.
All right. Now, on the moment of the shooting, your testimony is you saw what you believe to be a white, was it a white Cadillac?
Correct.
Now, do you recall giving a statement to police officers that same morning or so that you thought it was either going to be a white or cream-colored Cadillac? You didn't know for sure?
I don't remember what my statement was 30 years ago.
Yeah, he admitted he didn't get a clear look at the faces in the Cadillac, but he was certain about one thing: the shots came from the back seat. And in redirect, the prosecution drove home the point that he had been cooperating for 30 years, so he'd have no reason to lie. Now, here's where things get interesting for the prosecution's case, because the jury also heard from a series of crime scene analysts who searched Keffe D's home back in July of 2023. Jeffrey Scott was the first to testify, and he responded to the search warrant at Davis's Henderson residence and documented what investigators found. In the garage, detectives located this 3-page document. It was a proposal for an episodic series, a TV show with a huge budget. Listen to this.
Yes, it is.
Without going too much into it, this appears to be a description of an episodic series.
Yes.
158. Oops. Well, generally speaking, page 2 is a ledger that has costs and those type of things.
Yes, page 2 and 3 were looks like a budget for the series.
And that's going to lead me just to 159. Appears the total budget was slightly under $1 million.
That's correct.
Thank you, Judge.
Now, a tiny moment, but important because it shows Davis might have been trying to make money off of his story long before his arrest. Remember, the defense claims you can't believe anything he had to say. If anything, all these narratives he made up, it's never been corroborated. Was he just trying to do it to get famous, to get money, to sell a book? Now, Scott collected those documents, entered them as evidence. Next up was Stevie Fellabaum, another crime scene analyst. She took over the scene, photographed the aftermath of the search, and what she found in Davis's bedroom was striking, because there, on the dresser, was apparently a Vibe magazine with Tupac Shakur on the cover, the November 1996 edition, published right after Tupac's death. Right next to it, a copy of Davis's own book, Compton Street Legend, and Greg Kading's book, Murder Rap.
This is exhibit number 101. What are we looking at here?
That was a jacket in one of the closets.
And on the left, well, I guess we'll zoom in just a little bit. Okay. On the left side, it looks like it says Reg 64 trays, and on the right side it says Keffe D.
Yes.
And then if we skip to 103, the back of it is South Side City of Compton.
Yes.
After you collect an item, do you photograph it either at the scene or back at the lab?
Yes.
Showing you 104. What are we looking at?
That's the photograph that I took of the Compton Street Legend book once I had recovered it and taken it back to the lab.
And then 105.
It's the back of the same book.
106.
That's the copy of the Vibe magazine after I recovered it and taken it back to the lab.
And 107.
It's the date and barcode on the cover.
So it looks like the November '96 edition of the Vibe magazine.
Correct.
Oh, ma'am. Previously opened off these, but let me show you. State's proposed exhibit number 148. Is that your evidence package from that night?
Yes.
And among what else you recovered, would you expect to find both the book and the Vibe magazine inside there had it still been sealed?
Yes.
Well, let me start first with the Vibe magazine. This is State's proposed exhibit number 140. And which is, do you recognize the bag on the outside?
Yes.
And what is that?
That's the identifying information that we put on interior packages to include the event number, my P number and initials, the date that it was recovered, and the item number.
That was on a jacket apparently found in Davis's closet. KTD, Keffe D. And on the back, South Side City of Compton. That's apparently gang signage right there in his closet. Now, the defense pressed this witness about the timing of her arrival, that she showed up after the search had already started. She only photographed rooms after officers had already gone through them.
Now, in this case, we've seen some pictures of some books and a jacket. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you arrived on scene, you were on scene for the later half or the latter half of the search.
Yes.
You weren't there for the beginning part of the search.
Yes, sir.
So the photographs you took are photographs that were of the areas and the rooms in the house after the search had been conducted. Fair to say, of course, is that each room was in disarray.
The search had already been started, yes, sir.
Yeah, and you don't know what they look like prior to you arriving on scene, but definitely after, there's things strewn around.
Yes, sir.
In your 9 years of experience as a crime scene analyst, when officers are conducting a search, they typically will be as thorough as they can be to look through everything in an area.
Yes.
Do they ever return those things back to how they found it before they entered into say, the room or the house?
I would say it depends on the level to which they've moved everything. If the entire closet's been empty, they don't typically put everything back.
They do not typically put everything back?
Not typically, no, sir.
Okay.
But perhaps the most telling evidence came from the 2 storage bins in the garage. Why? Because inside those bins, there were apparently newspaper clippings. And I mean dozens of them, all related to Tupac's killing, the aftermath, the gang war that followed. But Detective Justine Gatiss testified that she was present during that search warrant, and she walked the jury through what was recovered, including a 1997 Compton Police Department search warrant that allegedly had been kept all those years.
This item 136.
Yes, Mike. Actually, I think we should put them here, because otherwise it's just going to slide.
.136 is actually what appears to be, well, it says an affidavit and a search warrant.
Correct.
From the Compton PD.
Yes, sir.
And it appears that it's dated May 27th of 1997.
Correct.
It appears that it's at 1524 South California Ave in Compton.
Yes, sir.
And on the back, there is a handwritten return.
Yes, sir.
One of the items that was recovered, it says number 4, money due bill for the Monte Carlo Casino.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's go through the items that were in the scrapbook, and then I just messed up their entire order, so I guess it doesn't matter which order. Let me just show some of the newspaper articles. So, State's Exhibit number 137H.
I'm sorry. You said 137?
137H. Did we?
I don't have that listed as just.
Didn't I offer everything 137 and 137A through you?
You listed it, but did you
Yes.
ask for it to be admitted?
It'll be admitted at this time.
Thank you.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect, by stipulation.
This appears to be an article about Mr. Shakur's death.
Yes, sir.
G. Another one about the death of Mr. Shakur, and this one's actually dated September 19th of 96.
Yes, sir.
U. This is another article that was found in there talking about Mr. Knight being kept in jail.
Yes, sir.
.137 appears to be a newspaper article about a bad rap for new artists.
That's correct. .137B, an article about Mr. Shakur being in a fight with the MGM. Yes, sir.
.137C, an article about a death row exec didn't leave, and this is from September 14th of 1996.
Yes, sir.
This one. This is 137D. I don't want to peel it back, but I guess we can peel that back. It appears to be the community mourns, and there's a picture of his death is going to send a strong message to the rap community. It looks like an article about death in the rap industry.
So Davis was apparently holding on to a search warrant from 1997, just months after Tupac's killing. And among the items seized from that earlier search, a money due bill from the Monte Carlo casino in Las Vegas. By the way, should be noted, there was a claim at one point from Keffe D himself, said he wasn't in Las Vegas at the time of the Tupac Shakur killing. But the defense had a different line of questioning for Gatus because they wanted to know about the chain of custody, who actually collected the evidence, who documented it, whether there were any gaps. She wasn't the one who signed the affidavit. And when it came to the bins, the storage bins with all those newspaper clippings, she wasn't the one who went through them either.
Her testimony here was specifically about the search warrant and what happened when you located, whatever it is you located during the course of the search warrant, right?
Yes, sir.
So in the search warrant itself, did you apply for that search warrant?
No, I did not.
Now, typically, as a detective, when you're applying for a search warrant, you fill out an affidavit,
Yes, sir.
and at the end, you sign it, attesting it to be true and correct to the best of your ability,
Yes, sir.
and you detail in that search or that application for a search warrant the location and what you intend on finding as a result of going into somebody's house.
Yes.
Okay. That would be the purview of whoever the lead detective is at that particular time.
Yeah, or who is just writing the search warrant. There's a lot of times people write search warrants and they're not lead detectives, but yes, I agree with what you're saying for the most part.
And in this case, Detective Mogg was the responsible detective to petition for that search warrant.
Yes, he was.
And he was the one who signed that affidavit.
Yes, he was.
Now, you were on scene as a detective to help him with that, with the execution of the search warrant.
Correct.
And it isn't just you and Detective Mogg, there's other people from Metro that's present as well.
Yes, sir.
Other detectives as well.
Yes, sir.
As well as the crime scene analyst that we have on scene.
Yes.
And they're all looking for information.
Correct.
Now, the information that you're looking for is based upon my client's residence, right, Mr. Davis' residence.
For that search warrant, yes.
And you are looking for evidence that would take you back 30 years to whether or not that person was involved in the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Yes.
Okay. So the information that we've received here today is the fruits of your labor from that search warrant.
Yes, sir.
But here's what helps the prosecution, seemingly. Gaddis confirmed that Mogg was the primary investigator from 2018 until his retirement in August of 2023. And she testified that after he retired, he continued working the case as a DA investigator, so he stayed on this. From there, the jury heard from Mark Hatton, a firearms expert with LVMPD, and he testified about the NIBIN database. This is the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, and his testimony was straightforward. That in 1996, 7 cartridge cases were recovered from the scene. They were entered into the system in 2003. 20 years later, 2023, Hatton re-entered them. The technology had improved significantly over those 20 years, but the result was the same.
Yes, I entered it into NIBIN myself, and we did a nationwide search, and it looked throughout the entire country, and then the NIBIN results had no associations other to the original entry from 2003.
So what you learned from NIBIN is when you entered the cartridge in 2003, it matched the cartridge you entered in 2023.
That's correct.
But nationwide, it did not match any other cartridge case that had been previously entered into NIBIN.
No, it did not.
So these 7 cartridge casings, they all came from the same gun. And that gun has never been linked to any other crime. So that maybe helps the prosecution because it supports their theory that the weapon was used only once in the Tupac shooting. However, we all know that there's no murder weapon in this case. Now, the final prosecution witness of the week was Robert Ladd, a retired Compton gang detective with 32 years on the job. And his testimony was arguably some of the most damaging for the defense because Ladd was a Compton gang detective in the 1990s, and he knew the Southside Compton Crips intimately, and he knew Duane Keffe D. Davis.
No, in his later years after he became the leader, whenever I'd see him, he'd be nicely dressed, have the brim hat on, and he wouldn't have anything gangster-like on. He was always well dressed.
All right, so you're saying that Mr. Davis was a shot caller within the Southside Compton Crips.
Absolutely, yes.
And what does that mean?
Well, he could tell the younger gangsters what to do, and if they don't listen, like I just said, there's going to be severe consequences. And all of a sudden we heard a barrage of shots. We can hear them hitting our car. Then heard about 5 or 6 shots, right? So after the shots stopped, we looked at each other, jumped out of the car, made sure we were all right, and we ran to where the shots were coming from. And witnesses were pointing down the street, and I saw 3 male blacks running down towards a known gang hangout. So these guys ran in there. We called the troops. We subsequently arrested Orlando Anderson and 2 other people, and during their interviews they said that was part of their initiation. They didn't have to be jumped in if they tried to kill me and my partner.
Ladd also testified about the Lakewood Mall incident, so the fight where Orlando Anderson and others allegedly jumped a member of Suge Knight's entourage. Ladd wasn't there, but as a gang expert, he explained the significance.
It was a highly prized medallion, and these guys wore it like a badge of honor, so them try to steal this chain and beat up this subject, it would be a major display of disrespect. So now this guy's got to go back to the Mob Piru and Death Row Records and tell them what happened, so the next time they see each other, it's going to be on. He told me that they thought the Southside Crips were responsible for the shooting.
And so when he's telling you this, do you now have to have a response to this, or why is he telling you specifically to get ready?
Because when you disrespect and shoot the biggest rap mogul on the planet and the biggest rap star on the planet, and he surrounds himself with the Mob Piru, then there's going to be some sort of retaliation. Gator, right after the first shooting of Darnell Brim, to me there was no doubt in my mind that the Southside Crips were responsible, because the Mob Piru had to retaliate, and they had 54 other gangs to choose from, but they went right after the Southside Crips. So there's no doubt in mind who's responsible for shooting Tupac and Suge Knight.
And cases in particular where witnesses are scared to come out is a defendant's admission of committing a murder, powerful evidence used to prosecute.
Yeah, that's how most of our gang crimes get solved, is by self-admission or incrimination.
That's the prosecution's theory, right? That Davis was the shot caller, that he was in the car, that he authorized the shooting, that his nephew Orlando Anderson pulled the trigger. And after Ladd's testimony, that is when the prosecution rested its case. Then it was time for the defense. And they called 3 witnesses, all with the same goal, to poke holes in the prosecution's timeline and suggest that maybe, just maybe, there is another white Cadillac out there. So first up was Stan Hite, a former LVMPD sergeant who was working a very specific detail on September 7th, 1996. He was at Suge Knight's residence.
On this particular night?
It was a night that Mike Tyson was fighting. It was a collective of people getting together for partying. They wanted to keep the peace, basically, keep things civil. I was with another officer, and we were at a gate, and we basically stayed at the gate while an entourage of vehicles came through. Approximately 15 vehicles came through, and the last one being Suge Knight's.
Okay, now with regard to the entourage of vehicles, where did they go?
In through the gate. I never went in through the gate, so I didn't see where they went after they entered the gate.
Okay. And with regard to the vehicles that went in, did you recognize or give note of any of the vehicles that were in there?
The last one was Suge Knight's. It was a cream-colored Cadillac.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. The last one that you had was a cream-colored Cadillac?
Yes.
And why do you remember that vehicle?
Just pointed out to me at the time. It was occupied by 2 black males.
Okay.
And I didn't know Suge Knight at the time. I was kind of, interested in, looking for Tyson at the time, and they just pointed that vehicle out to me as Suge Knight's.
Next up, Charlie Mangrum, another officer working the same detail as Suge's residence. And his detail and his testimony added more detail.
About 10:10, 10:15, Suge Knight driving a BMW, blue BMW, with Tupac in the passenger seat, came to the gate, and followed by, I believe, probably 5 or 6 other vehicles in line, which I described in my OR report.
Okay. Now, just to make sure I'm clear with the OR report, you don't have to do that right now, but with regards to your OR report, is that something that you do as a police officer, is write a report?
Yes.
Now, in this case, obviously you're just helping with potentially a party that takes place. There's no party that takes place, right?
No.
Were you asked by anyone to write a officer's report after your time working on this particular night?
Yes, I was. I don't recall who that was, though. Yeah.
That's fine. And so the officer's report you wrote, fair to say that that's something that you have done throughout your career as a police officer?
Absolutely.
And what's the reason for an officer's report?
Documentation, so that in the future you have something to go on if need be.
Now, with regards to your recollection for that night, did you what were the other vehicles that you remember entering into the residence area of Suge Knight and leaving the area of Suge Knight's residence?
Well, Suge and Tupac were there approximately 30 minutes, and they exited back out, followed by a cream-colored Cadillac, a compact vehicle that was occupied by 4 females, and a few other vehicles that I had referred to my officer's report on. But later on, following the time that Tupac and Suge left, Mike Tyson showed up as a passenger in a Bentley, followed by another Bentley that I believe was Don King's son. And we informed them that Suge Knight had told us that the party was no longer going to happen.
I see.
And then they turned around and left.
Under cross-examination, the prosecution pressed Mangrum on one key detail: the white Cadillac leaving the gate.
White Cadillac left that guard gate.
Yeah.
It was occupied by 2 black males as well.
Yes.
The defense's final witness was Dan Long, a former LVMPD detective who actually investigated the Tupac Shakur case starting in 2004. His testimony was perhaps the most significant for the defense because Long was in the gang unit on the night of the shooting. And he apparently heard the gunshots, rushed to the scene, but it's what happened years later that really matters.
My sergeant, Kevin Manning, handed me the file and said I would follow up any further leads.
All right, and can you explain to us a little bit about how that works? You're a detective. The file had been with somebody else prior, Detective Becker.
Yeah, Detective Becker and Detective Mike Franks.
And now you have the file. So
Yes.
what do you do as a detective when you're handed a file that's already been worked on?
You read it. You read it. I went through the pictures. I then discussed it with my sergeant. I went down to California. There was a lot in that file, and I didn't know Compton very well. I didn't know Compton at all. So I went down. I had ridden in the gang unit with gang detectives, and I knew them still. So I called and said, "Can you take me around and show me these things?" So we drove around Compton. They showed me houses where the Compton Crips lived. They showed me where Orlando Anderson died. They showed me a lot of different things.
And Long also testified about a crucial moment in 2009 when he sat down with Keffe D himself.
Myself and my lieutenant, Lou Roberts, made a drive after I received a phone call saying that there's somebody that wanted to give information about Tupac and Tupac's murder. We then drove down on the morning of September 9th. They wanted us to meet them at the HIDA office, which is at 1340 West 6th Street in LA, which is about 6 blocks from Plaza One. We met them there. I would then met Detective Darren Dupree, and he told me that Duane Davis, also known as Keffe, was in the interview room. He had his attorney present, whose name was Wayne Higgins, and we were going to go in and he was going to give me information. And he further explained that Keffe had got caught with a large amount of narcotics and was trying to work off those charges.
Now, sir, and just to cut you off at that part, I apologize. But with regards to that information, at some point you conduct an interview in that room.
Yes, sir.
With Mr. Davis.
With Mr. Davis, with his attorney. My lieutenant didn't want to go in, so Darren Dupree agreed to go with me.
All right. And there was a recording. Did you record the meeting?
I did.
Okay. And is that just standard operating procedure for what you do as a detective?
Yes, I was told that they were going to record it also, but I wanted to record it myself. That way I have it in my hands.
Okay. And during the course of that meeting, you learned information, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the interaction here? Were you ever asked to leave the room?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us why you were asked to leave the room?
Mr. Davis became very nervous. I was asking questions that he didn't feel comfortable with, which is to be expected. And he asked me to leave the room. He wanted to talk to his attorney and he wanted to talk to Detective Dupree. I then stepped out of the room for not very long, and then they asked me to come back in.
Was there ever a time that you left the room and was accompanied by Mr. Dupree and only had Mr. Higgins and Mr. Davis in the room by themselves?
I don't recall that.
So every time you left, Mr. Dupree was in the room with Mr. Higgins and Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir.
Now, at some point, you were able to learn some information.
From Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
When you came back, did you corroborate any of the information?
I tried.
Okay, and what did you do? What efforts did you make?
During the interview, Mr. Davis indicated first that Orlando Anderson, or Baby Lane, had been beat up at the MGM, which we all had video of. I think everybody on the planet has seen this video. He was complaining that his arm was either broken or out of socket. He first told me that they had gone back to California and had gone to the hospital in California. But he said they went to the hospital on Maryland Parkway, and the hospital on Maryland Parkway is Sunrise, and that he had gotten a sling for his arm. So I filled out a subpoena, and I wanted to know if Orlando had signed in, was examined in any fashion. And now we're talking, this is 2009. We're talking about somebody coming into the emergency room in 1996. So I didn't find anything. They couldn't give me anything with Orlando's name on it.
And under cross-examination, Long made a stunning admission.
And you know, or at least you believe, you'd agree with me, that Mr. Davis was a suspect in your homicide, not a witness.
Yes, sir.
And by the end of that interview, what is your intent?
My intent was to drive back to Las Vegas, type up a warrant for an arrest, clear it with the district attorney, and have Mr. Davis arrested for murder.
Now, at that point, did you and members of my team have an opportunity to actually listen to the recording?
Yes, sir.
And we heard the section where you're not in the room, correct?
That's correct. So we brought the recording and the transcription over. The DA reviewed it, and they invited me over, and they told me that they were not going to go forward with prosecution at that time because they're...
Let me ask,
a lot of complications.
Let me ask it this way. Were you directed to find out the circumstances of why it was that a suspect in our homicide was in a room with his lawyer and a task force officer having that conversation?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, you've been told there might be a proffer somewhere out there in 2008.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And proffers are between lawyers and sovereigns, correct?
That's correct.
So it's either got to be the U.S. Attorney's Office or the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, but it certainly wasn't the state of Nevada or the Clark County District Attorney's Office.
That's correct.
And did you make efforts to find out from Wayne Higgins what the nature of that agreement was between him and some other sovereign?
Yes. Mr. Higgins as well as others. Yes.
And you would agree with me that Mr. Higgins wouldn't return our calls?
That's correct.
Did you attempt to contact U.S. Attorney Seawright?
Yes.
And you would agree with me, Mr. U.S. Attorney Seawright, at least at that time, would not return our calls?
Correct.
But on redirect, the defense wanted to remind the jury about something important. Yes, there were a lot of confessions, maybe arguably false confessions over the years, but when you're a detective, you don't just take someone's word for it.
Did you ever have, when you reviewed the file in this case, were there any people calling in saying that they did it? They did the murder?
Sure.
I mean, can you give us a number or an amount?
There was a lot. There was quite a few. I mean, I had information that Bill Clinton had him killed. I mean, there was no, he did not follow up on that. There was a lot of calls, a lot of people claiming to have been involved. No.
Yeah. And fair to say,
most
though,
of the time they couldn't get any of the information correct.
Right. And so when you're determining, for instance, a confession, what are you looking for? Like, if someone says, I confess to this, what information do you use to determine whether it's correct or not?
They're like, what kind of vehicle were you in? How did the shooting occur? What kind of firearm was it? Where did you go from there? What preceded it? How did you... all of it. I mean, anything that you can find as in facts, you want to connect to them. I'm behind the eight ball because I'm 15 years after the fact, or 14 years after the fact, trying to corroborate different things. But I mean, I made the attempts.
After Long's testimony, the defense rested. And Davis chose not to take the stand. So that's where the case is right now, right? Both sides rested. It's going to be up to the jury after closing arguments. But here's the thing. As much as we love highlighting the legal strategy here on Sidebar, we cannot forget the victim in this. We cannot forget to honor what this case is all about. The young man at the center of this whose life was taken tragically way too soon, Tupac Shakur. We had the chance to sit down with another member of his family, Aiyisha T. Obafemi. She's Tupac's cousin, a board member of the Tupac Shakur Foundation, the author of A Light on a Hill. All the book proceeds go to the foundation, and she shared with us what she wants the world to remember about Tupac Shakur.
I think that if he were here today as an evolved, elevated, older man now, this year was his 55th birthday. So of course he'd have more to give, more knowledge, more education for the people. And I think everyone would be pleasantly surprised at his impact and who he would be at this time.
I don't disagree with you. And what I think is amazing, he's so relevant even to this day. Like, his music is still having an impact. His name still has an impact. That is not the case for other people. What do you think it was about Tupac that his name, his spirit, his impact is still, affecting a whole new generation who didn't even know him? Why do you think that is? What makes him so special?
Well, he was a special individual. And always was, from a child. Wow, what makes him special? A lot of it is the way we were raised. And we believe in family and the community as a family. So it's not just about him, so he always wanted to ensure that he was impacting those around him, whether he, just met them and, had an interaction for 5 minutes, or it was someone he knew his whole life. And he was able to impact them daily by, just speaking to them, talking to them, and having conversations. I remember the last conversation. It was actually September 4th, 1996, after the MTV VMA Awards. I was living in New York, because we all are from there. And he was there for the VMAs and called me after to meet up with him to hang out, but I was already in the bed. And so, a little back and forth, come. No, I got to work tomorrow, and we said, I love you to each other. And that was the last conversation.
One of the things that I've learned is that despite how famous Tupac became, how successful he was, he remained the same person. I mean, that's what I keep hearing, that despite it, he was still the same Tupac. Is that what your experience was?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And family was so important to him, and did he ever tell you, like, I can't believe that this is happening? Like, how big his name was?
No, he didn't say that. We used to joke.
Oh, yeah?
I used to joke with him and say, don't nobody like you. You think you're really popular now, like mess with him,
Yeah.
Being playful. He's like, what? I was like, yeah. Meanwhile, I have friends like, oh my God, he's so cute. And he's so this. And I love him and his music. And, very impactful. So, yeah, It was my job just to tease him a bit, He was very keen on young people, ensuring that they had what they needed to succeed in life. And we continue the work that he wanted to do with the Tupac Shakur Foundation that I'm also a board member on. And, it's things like making sure that there's music in schools, that, people who want to be artists and, who want to do that have the opportunity to play an instrument, to even receive an instrument. Music in schools is not as prevalent, in a lot of schools anymore as it used to be. I think it's harder and harder for young people to find their footing and, get what they need from, these educational institutions. And so that's one of the things that we work on. And as far as him being misunderstood, Tupac was 25 when he left this earth. And as a young man living your life in the spotlight, people need to think about that.
Yeah.
As a young man from 21 to 23, 22 to 24, what were you doing and not having to live your life in public, that people could judge you on? Being a young man, and I think that's important. He was wiser than his years, but he was still a young man. We never know what's going to happen. Nothing is promised. I believe in a higher power, so I believe that, God or the Most High, whatever name you choose to call him, knows best. Although Tupac doesn't live physically anymore, he still lives. I talk to him often.
Do you?
What do you think about this? Yeah. Because he's still here. His spirit is still present. Is it hard for the family? Of course it is. Because we would love to see him, to hug him, to hear that voice. And it has been difficult. But there are also times, when we can laugh and just reminisce on the memories. And having memories really, really helps.
Just want to thank Aiyisha again. That was so insightful. I really appreciate her taking the time to talk more about Tupac Shakur. You know this can't be easy for the family. It's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check us out, NBC's Peacock. And if you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern. See you next time.